is the symbolism, of course, of the spider, because the spider has 8 legs, and this being has wrapped webs and binded humans using poisonous trees, vines, and ivy. This is what I'm seeing on the other realm. And that what generally happens is that a shell begins to build up around the person that tends to look something like an insectoid, but the person remains inside. And the only thing that's actually keeping them there is their shallow breathing. That our language is actually breath. Because if you listen to a person's breath, you can hear and feel every single thing that if they're sincere. Then if they're not sincere, they just breathe shallow. This becomes a way of knowing if a being is really tapped in or if it may be just another sleeper that's being guided by an agent. Look at this symbolism that's being used on the currency. What you see is certain men were either did one or two things. Either one, they were always in it, and this is symbolized as a double-headed eagle. That means that they have an affiliation with both families of the bloodlines. That bloodline is Naga and Aryan. So the next symbolism, dark Naga and Aryans. Depends on how you look at it. So the ones that don't have that double-headed eagle but just have one eagle, then they are basically the servants. They are being conned to bring their goods. They generally give them something like a bridge. They give them something like a huge bank most of the time. And they give them some type of building that the government and different individuals that are like the tribe leaders can use as their quarters. And then they also tell them, hey, you can go and do it. If you come into our group, there's already these involved in our group. And so you can only imagine how this started. This probably started with a lie, with one being saying, hey, we already got them to do it. You should go ahead and do it too. Because if you do it, then you can shop with us. If you do the money thing, then you can trade with even China. Look at the goods that come from China. And they used to bring them gifts. And this is going to be an actual series because I'm definitely going to free the world from this. I feel like it's my job and duty. The reality is that they started to go into these countries, especially the Dutch and these different individuals, and showed them these trinkets and things that they were getting from other places, some stuff that they weren't even creating themselves. And then they're telling the individual, look, if you sign these contracts and this papers and start printing this note, and we'll even use your tree. We'll use your sacred tree, and we'll blend it, and it will have the currency and the power. This is the next level of the transition. This is how it came to our forefathers and foremothers, because they told them that the double square actually symbolized the two worlds coming into balance. And this is never, two doesn't come into balance. It's two. It takes three to balance something. That's why two is a dual. It's always in conflict. And so these beings already knew all of this when they began this, and that's why they get no respect from me. And the reality is that until I breathe my last breath, I will be revealing all of it because I'm tapped in. And people need to understand, well, how do you know all this stuff and how are you guided to all this stuff? Because it's like something in my own bloodline. Like I'm already like 5 bloodlines just from the colonization. But because I'm still not shabby in the mind and I'm not sleep and I'm not sluggish, I can actually hear them. And I can hear what they say. And like I said, the fear-mongering has got to stop. All they're saying on their end is every 2 to 3 months now. We need it that much. Predict something, predict a major disaster. It's insane because the reality is that I tell you the truth, September 11th, the day will come and it will go. And for all those people that were scared today about them predicting that something was going to happen today, woe to them. This is not the time to be using your energy as such, and that's why also the resistance is turning again, like I said, into a faction to debunk the bull crap, but which is really from the bull, the papal bull, but also not be backing down off of this knowledge and say, okay, we're not gonna say anything about it anymore. No, we're gonna say more about it than ever, and we're gonna give the solutions more than ever because that's what we do. We've already done it. That's the reality. People need to stop looking at our faction as something that is yet to come. It's already here. We're doing it. We're telling you this is what happens on the other side. I have people around me that have walked into the other side before and seen what's going on there. We've seen the jokers and the jesters and the tessellated floors on the dark side of the moon. We've seen the Nazis completely take over everything because the only reports you ever get from space telling you that you're on Earth comes from Nazis. That's it. How could you ever expect for them to tell the truth? Because they're not into it like that. They're into the opposite of what they're into. An opposite. They're into what people are slowly making themselves, which is expecting everything as one thing to be perfectly the way they want it. Meaning that they're looking for this archetype, this one to them that equals that's the person. And they've done it with several Hollywood figures, and they give you this prototype to go by. And then from that point, the person just starts to feed into the monster, feed all of their energy into the beast as the beast circulates through their hand. It's in their palm, and then it's in their mind, it's in their forehead. And then I'm living in a dimension in which I practice into these things and done it because of an occultation that's been taking place with all of us. But I'd be damned if I just sit here and just let it happen and not say nothing about it and not do nothing about it, because that's what'll freak you. That's if you actually take that money and then you go to your bank and you see how much they'll give you if you have your good credit. People are so weird now. If you know that something like the comet was coming, then you know you have some type of resources that laying around. Man, get rid of that stuff and go and live your life somewhere. Cut it off now. It's almost like the gambler that doesn't want to get up from the table. It's a game, okay? This is what they're playing out here in the reality so that people don't know what's really going on. Now, I know about this because my name is James, and a J is really a G. So that means my first name is Games. And I have a feeling, because I know all of this stuff, that I probably was playing games for lifetimes. I was playing it on hard mode even. But the reality becomes is that it's enough of thought. Enough thought. Enough ethereal, can't feel it, but that's what we're supposed to be. Oh, I'm happy because I feel clean and I feel a lot of energy. Yes, this is a state we can hit. Like, it's easy. It's a couple biochemical cell salts in the right place. It's a couple magnets pinned in the right place. It's a couple crystals put in the right place. It's a couple elements swallowed, then go to the right place. There were so many ways, but you just had to be consistent. That's what the world lacks, is consistency. It can't stick with anything for too long before it moves on to something else, thus never seeing the completion of it. And then getting desperate when resources and things start to run out. And then that desperate makes one do things like you see these men on these dollar bills do. When they came to them, the conversation was joyous for them. Many of these men were waiting on the time for them to come and talk to them, just like people now are acting like the Illuminati is going to come talk to them, doing things that are like Illuminati-ish, covering one eye and carrying pyramids around, that kind of behavior, as if you're entertaining something that you don't even understand how it's rolled across the world and pillaged everything. This affiliation is the problem, and you cut out the cancer, or can, which means serpent. Ser means serpent. Cut out the double serpent, the poison. So the last options are really coming to this planet. We wrote the code of the Matrix like 3 years ago now, 2 years ago, something like this. All of this information coming out about things like this. And then I was forced to back down, because when coming out with it and the power and the strength that it had, then all of a sudden I was labeled the spiritual imposter. How am I the spiritual imposter? But that's what you learn about the reality, is that whatever it sometimes is telling you to do, if you're not listening to awake people, just do opposite. You can just kind of get there. If they're standing up, sit down. It's like if they're not breathing, breathe. That's where we're at now until you get around individuals who are not there, and that becomes the next thing. The next thing is, okay, so basically what I saw is that as these hyperdimensional beings that we are, wherever you set your mind as a reference point, if you could hold it there long enough, then all of a sudden you would basically start to live there. It's kind of weird, but half of your day would be spent there. This becomes like the mystery that they keep talking about these goddesses who spend like a part of this year in the underworld. This is like a deeper myth. And it's really about humans, because humans were gods and goddesses together. They weren't like divided like that. So what this is really about is oh man, I just lost my train of thought. I guess you guys are supposed to know that. So anyway, let me get back to the currency here. The currency is obviously showing you that when faced with certain decisions, many individuals that were our representatives, because they connected to us in bloodline. Notice that every tribe leader, every shaman or medicine man, It's only chosen to be that every priest, even if you go into Judaism, every imam, high imam, in the real Wahhabi Islam, where they're following all the orthodoxy, any master Sufi, any of these individuals, what you will notice is that they must go through an extreme level of spiritual contact before they can get elected into that position. So this means that behind what's controlling everything, there is beings that are very equipped with an esoteric system of magic that is only applicable for this dimension only. It's foolishness to the high beings. They don't even understand how it works, for better lack of words, meaning that it's based on one thing, energy to them. Are you building energy or are you taking energy? Are you sowing into the building of more good energy or are you sowing into the building of more negative energy? Simple as that. So people talk about the laws of the universe, that the laws of the universe are going to save them. Actually, the laws of the universe are what's keeping us here. Because according to the laws of the universe, we're hooked up with the bad guys. And we've gotten so deep into it, we can't even see that that's exactly what's going on. That's what's happening to the planet. Now we're here so close. There's so many synchronizations happening with time and things of that nature. Obviously, we're close to time wave zero. I haven't already been to time wave zero before, so I will tell you what it was like. Whatever you thought you were, you became. If it was too high, then what you really could get to, you would land somewhere in between. These realities can be gone to every day even, meaning that you can actually leave this world and go to another world for half of the time in the day. That's actually what I was talking about. I'm glad I got around to this again. I do apologize, but sometimes I have quantum thoughts going on top of other things, and they start to collide and make other things. But basically, this dual nature, this gods and goddesses. Excuse me, everyone, for just a brief moment. Okay, everyone, there's actually been some things taking place. What I'm going to do is I want everyone to know if you do have a question, you can actually press 1, and the dial pad will actually let me know that you do have a question. I'm just going to have to take just a brief moment to organize something here on the computer panel so that we don't lose sound, and I'm going to come right forward when that happens. It's like there's one idea. There's one idea that we're trying to grasp, and it just keeps escaping me. It's so important. It's about this nature between them already knowing. I just can't grasp it. It's so funny too, because it's like right there, and then it's like. Alright, so man, we pretty much covered a lot of this. We've got about 20 more minutes left on the show. Okay, we got a lot of minutes. Okay, so we just had a slight technical difficulty here, and what we're going to do is to make sure that we're able to broadcast the last part of this message. We're just going to do that now. That way we have enough time to finish talking about what we were discussing earlier. I want to talk about the solution because it's just very important for that to be conveyed. Now, people should realize that as you see on this currency, that there is other individuals that actually made an agreement. All we're doing is kind of upholding the agreement. We're like the current that comes with it. Sometimes the school of fish is being led by one fish. And when that fish is removed, then everyone gets an opportunity to go into the direction that they've been planning and ready to go in. And this is the case that the reality is that they started to go into these countries, especially the Dutch and these different individuals, and showed them these trinkets and things that they were getting from other places, some stuff that they weren't even creating themselves. And then they telling the individual, look, if you sign these contracts and these papers and start printing this note, and we'll even use your tree. We'll use your sacred tree and we'll blend it and it will have the currency and the power. This is the next level of the transition. This is how it came to our forefathers and foremothers because they told them that the devil's an alien, Aries. Depends on how you look at it. So the ones that don't have that double-headed eagle but just have one eagle, then they are basically the servants. They are being conned to bring their goods. They generally give them something like a bridge. They give them something like a huge bank most of the time. And they give them some type of building that the government and different individuals that are like the tribe leaders can use as their quarters. And then they also tell them, hey, you can go and do it. If you come into our group, there's already these involved in our group. And so you can only imagine how this started. This probably started with a lie, with one being saying, hey, we already got them to do it. You should go ahead and do it too. Because if you do it, then you can shop with us. If you do the money thing, then you can trade with even China. Look at the goods that come from China. And they used to bring them gifts. And this is going to be an actual series because I'm definitely going to free the world from this. I feel like it's my job and duty. Is the symbolism, of course, of the spider, because the spider has 8 legs. And this being has wrapped webs and binded humans using poisonous trees, vines, and ivy. This is what I am seeing on the other realm. And that what generally happens is that a shell begins to build up around the person that tends to look something like an insectoid, but the person remains inside. And the only thing that's actually keeping them there is their shallow breathing. That our language is actually breath. Because if you listen to a person's breath, you can hear and feel every single thing that if they're sincere. And then if they're not sincere, they just breathe shallow. This becomes a way of knowing if a being is really tapped in or if it may be just another sleeper that's being guided by an agent. Look at this symbolism that's being used on the currency. What you see is certain men were either did one or two things. Either one, they were always in it, and this is symbolized as a double-headed eagle. That means that they have an affiliation with both families of the bloodlines. That bloodline is Naga and Aryan. So the next symbolism, Dark Naga.